What's up, everyone? It's Matt Brozick, and this will be a very long overdue work in progress on the Morbius kit. I did an intro video like, I don't know, like a month and a half ago or longer, and I just have been, other than doing my little chroming videos, this is the first weekend that I've actually had time to spend in the studio for about 6 weeks. Work has been insanely busy, and it continues to be busy. So, got a lot of projects going on. I've got the Morbius kit. I've got Chris Crespo's Cyclops repaint. Finally got the yellow sprayed on that the other day. Working on chroming videos and stuff. So yeah, I need to get busy, and I've missed time up here. The only thing I was able to clean it last week, and that's about it. So looking over this kit again, I'm going to tackle the torso first. So now, if you watch my intro video of this kit, it's a really cool piece. I like the sculpt, I like the design, but as a kit, it does have some issues that I got to work out. Again, I'm not sure how I think the production pieces come. I'd have to go look at Jim Mint's video again, but I think he comes as one piece. So like the arms and these wings are in there, because once you put the arm in, you can't put the wing in. And that's not a design flaw, it's just how it's designed, which makes sense. So what I need, and when I put this wing in particular, put it in the arm, and then I put it in like this, it doesn't go in all the way. So there's some interference somewhere. And my guess is that I'm getting interference from these keys. And I've got a huge, if I don't take care of that, I've got that big gap in the arm, which we don't want to have that. So let me bring my camera over a little bit more so you can see what I'm doing. Straight down. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm trying to get this in the spot where you can see what I'm doing, but I can see what I'm doing because I've got this kind of clamped to one of my lamps. Right in my face if I put it there. So my attack of a plan, plan of attack, I think, is I'm going to slowly kind of like, it fits, like if I take this wing, fits really good there in the arm by itself, it fits really good here in the torso by itself. Actually this key right here looks a little long, so if you need to put that in there, you notice it's sticking out a little bit. So I think I need to sand that down. So let's get a file here. I'm going to sand this key down a little bit, see how that does. More sanding. I was just saying in a video that I was doing on the Bushy Silver Surfer, because in the background I've also been kind of prepping the Silver Surfer for chroming, because once I have the Gravin Labs Surfer done, ready for chrome, I want to be able to chrome more than one thing at a time, just to save chemicals and stuff. So I'm going to take that down a little bit so we can get that to go in a little further. Yeah, a little more. So I'm going to glue the wings on and the arms on before I do any painting. It'll create a little more masking, but I'd rather have that because I want to get rid of the seam in the arm here. There's a little bit of a gap. It's not major, just a little bit, but I want to get rid of that. So now let's see how this works. Put that on. Excuse me, and then put this in. That helped a little bit. I cannot push the arm in all the way, but I can't push it down all the way. So if I come... Okay, so now what I think I need to do, I think I'm going to actually make these keys a little skinnier, so I'm playing them. And remember, on the other hand, I've got to try to resculpt a finger, and I am not a sculptor, so I'm going to do my best to make it look good. I sculpted a Nair and Hellboy nose, and I was pretty damn proud of that, to be honest. Because one of my Nair and Hellboys I did the nose, half the nose was missing. Okay. So that looks pretty good, actually. It's about where it was before I did any work to the keys. So, and there's a little gap back here. Again, this is all just trying to get this to fit together as best as possible. My initial thought was just to take the keys out altogether on the wings. There's plenty of surface area in there for them to glue in. And if I did that, I could paint them separately. So just for the hell of it, I'm gonna take these keys off. I'm gonna take these keys off and come back. Okay, so I was playing with just kind of making the keys smaller so this would snap in, but I decided just go ahead and take the keys off. Because what I'm going to do, and this will save me some masking later, is I'm going to go ahead and get the arms on. I'm going to pin them, I'm going to epoxy them, I'm going to seam them, and then once it's all done, I can paint the wings separately, and they'll slide right in. And I can just add a little bead of epoxy on the edges, and there'll be plenty of surface area for it to glue in. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pin this arm. And what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that the arm's in a place where the wing, when the wing's on, there's like as little gap as possible. There'll be a little bit of a seam, but no big deal. I should say seam, not a gap. So it seems to be right in this area. So what I'll do is I'll pin the arm, I'll epoxy it, and I'll just kind of hold the wing in place, and I'll slather some petroleum jelly all over the wing just so I don't get any glue on it, so it doesn't stick. So that way that the arm is in the perfect spot for when I go to put the wing in later after it's been painted. It fits perfectly. So let's do that next. For that I need a drill bit, drill. So I'll show you one side and I'll do the other off camera. And I'm going to, let's get some brass rod out. Let's see, I need to actually make a brass rod, a trip to the, or make an order of brass rod. I'm getting low. I'd like to use 5/32, but this is the last one I've got. I'm going to have to run to the hobby store today and get some more. So I'm going to actually cut my hole a little bit bigger than 5/32. I'm going to make it like 3/16. Helps with the batteries in the drill. It always helps. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, now see, there's actually looks like there's a magnet in there from the factory. There is. There's a magnet there. Oh, it's right. I forgot. These have magnets, but they're going the wrong way. Ha 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 ha. Okay. I forgot about that. So now, this is going to be a fun challenge. I want this guy one piece. So I got to figure out how to get this magnet out of here. So I got to tear this up, unfortunately. So let's see how big this magnet is. Yeah, so I hit it there. Hit it there. Okay. So that's interesting. I'm hitting. Oh no, I'm not hitting that. There we go. Yeah, I see a spark in the magnet. Okay. I wonder if I can knock this loose. Let's see. Come on. I'm not going to get out of the body. I'd rather try to get it out of here. And I could technically just glue it in with them in there, but I don't want that opposing force in there. I have to tear this up pretty good to get it out. And this is why when you put magnets in, you double, triple, quadruple, make sure they're in the right way, because getting them out once they're glued in sucks. Let's see if I can do this. Drilling a hole in my hand, which I've done several times on camera. Oop, almost there. Almost did it there. So basically what I do is I drill a bunch of holes around it. You have to go back and look at the production piece, because you know, they fix all the, or they should fix all the gaps and stuff at the factory. And if the magnet was in right, there'd still be a significant gap around the arm. So I'm wondering if they initially thought about having the arms magnetized and decided against it later. Ow. See? I just cut myself again. Okay. Now let's see if I can knock it out. This key's pretty much shot anyway. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. I believe I'll push it out from the little hole I drilled underneath it earlier. Alright, so the magnet's out. So, now I don't want to tear up this socket. Sorry, my Amazon is going crazy. It keeps reconnecting and disconnecting. So, with the magnet in there, I can't pin it, which is not a good thing. There is a lot of surface area here that if I just do epoxy, if for whatever reason this thing ever did fall or break, it'd probably break at the elbow here. So I think what we're going to do, since the magnet's there, I'm just going to sand all the primer off around the joint and just put a really nice dose of epoxy in there, and that'll make sure this joint is really, really snug. And then also I'll help fill in the gap that I have going on here. So yeah, so in order to do that, I'm going to sand off this primer on this key. The epoxy has bare resin to stick to. Alright. So I'm going to do that, and I'll come back. I'm also going to sand it off within the body or torso. Alrighty, so I got my 15-minute epoxy, I've got some petroleum jelly, I've got my 90% alcohol here, I've got some paper towels. I sanded the majority of the glue or the primer off the key of this. Same thing with the torso. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mix some epoxy up. We're going to put the arm in. I'm going to slather the wing. Where'd it go? Right here. And some petroleum jelly so it doesn't get glued in there, because I don't want to glue it in yet. So I'm going to do that first, get that to the side. I want to make sure the arm's in a good position and lining up with the wing the way I want it to before it dries. So just slather this, doesn't have to be pretty. I mean, you're just putting a barrier between this piece and the other pieces and the epoxy that's going to ooze out. And this all gets washed later anyway, so don't care if it gets messy or dirty. I wash everything really good with Dawn liquid soap and warm water before I do any priming or anything. A lot of times I'll do several rounds of washing and stuff in the whole build process. I want to make sure I have a really good layer, really right here, because this is where I anticipate I'll get the most ooze out between the arm and the torso. Okay. So let's put that to the side. That's all nice and messy looking. Mix up some epoxy here. I want to mix up enough that it glues everything together and then get some ooze out. I want to help fill that gap. The amount that I have here, this is, I gotta be careful I don't mix it too fast because it'll heat up and want to kick off quicker than I'm ready. So I'm going to get a paper towel here soaked with some alcohol. Put that there. So I've got a lot of epoxy here, but I'd rather have too much and have it use that everywhere than not have enough. I'm just going to mix it slowly because I don't want to unplug that damn thing. It's pissing me off. Damn, Amazon keeps disconnecting. So the faster, if I stir this too vigorously, it'll cause it to kick off faster. I don't use 30-minute too often because it just takes too long to cure. 5 minutes for this kind of application is too fast. I don't have enough working time. And this can go too fast if I mix it too fast. And the more you mix up at one time, the faster it kicks off because it builds up heat as it starts to go. So as that happens, I'm just going to pour this into this joint. I'm going to spread it around. Okay. And set that right there. I'm also going to put some on the arm here. Again, this is going to be way too much, but again, I got this big hole here. I can fill it up. It can kind of act as a key. So I just fill that up and let it ooze out, and that can kind of act as a key for me. Okay. So put that in. It's going to ooze out everywhere. I'm going to put the wing in. And now I can work on cleaning this up. I make a huge mess when I use epoxy. I just do. I get it everywhere. That's okay. So I'll have some putty work to do afterwards, but I can use this epoxy to get a good start on filling the gap in the arm. I'm going to hold this here for a little while. Unfortunately, there's no really good way to clamp this. So as this cures, I'm going to make sure I move the arm around to get into position so that when I put the wing in later, it's in its best position also. Got to bring it down a little bit. I think that's in the camera. So if I bring it in and down, I'll have more of a gap to fill at the top, but that's okay. The wing will fit better if I do that. So basically, I kind of hold the wing in and the arm in until this kind of kicks off. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back. Alrighty, so I kind of just held this together for 10-15 minutes, and the wing comes out, piece of cake. Arms glued in, and so later I'll do the other side too. I'm actually going to do the other side before I do the finger, that way I'm not banging it around my awesome sculpture. So I'm going to do the other side, and then the next step was we'll do some putty work. So I'll do that. I'll come back after the other side's been epoxied in. Alright, so while I got the arms on there and they're kind of drying with the epoxy, I'm going to tackle the base while that happens. Now the base, I actually really like the base, but the base needs a lot of work. I'm personally not happy with the way things fit in the gaps and stuff, so I've not seen the production piece in person. I just tried to look up some photos in the groups and online, but I couldn't get the photos I wanted. I was looking for close-ups of this piece to see how the production pieces look, to see if this piece fits better on the base than it does here. I was also curious to see how his feet stand on the base too, because the way he stands is I've got to rekey him. I've got to rekey this. Not really key. The key's actually fine. What I'm not happy with is, I need you to keep it down. What I'm not happy with is this huge gap in here, like his footprint. It's decent where, like, again, I'm not griping about this. It's a kit, so it requires certain attention. But like, if this was a production piece and I got it and had that big gap, I would probably wouldn't be happy with it. I'd say something. Same here. So yeah, so I need to get this piece to fit well. I need to rekey this foot. And the key's in fine. I guess rekey's not the right word. I need to fix this footprint. It's not quite there. So that's actually relatively easy. I'll probably do that first. Again, it's my Bondo trick, which I've shown in numerous videos. And then, hold on. Just watch Jim Mint's video again to kind of see. I think the kit was packed a little bit differently than the pre-paint because, again, it's been a few months since I unpacked this thing. So in the pre-paint, this base comes as one piece like this, and then the angel is a piece too. Now she fits really, really well in the base here. I don't have to worry about seaming this because she's supposed to come out and it's keyed very well. So I don't have to worry about that. I can glue her together here. There's a little bit of chip out right there. So once I glue it together, I'll kind of resculpt that little bit of fabric there. I'll see if I don't remember seeing that piece. Just like I'm missing a finger. The finger I'm really upset about. Like I gotta resculpt the finger. I don't think I have. I've got a little Tupperware here with all the little pieces. And typically, as I'm unpacking things, you know, oh, that may be it right there. Is that it? Aha, there it is. Okay, so I have it. So as I'm unpacking these kits, sometimes they show up damaged, just like a pre-paint. You know, sometimes they get chip outs and stuff. So as I'm doing that, I make sure to keep the pieces. So that's actually an easy fix. So I'll just glue that back in like that, and they'll fix just fine. So I don't have to worry about that. Actually, I'll wait till I put it on the statue. That way it doesn't chip out again. So Now I do see, and this is me just being the way I am. So on the back here, and I may fix this. On the back here, there's a seam here. My frame. Sometimes I can't tell if I'm in frame. There's a seam here from this vine, so I may putty that. Here, there's a little plant that goes in. There's a little plant that goes there. That actually may be covered up by whatever plant goes there. But and then there's a little bit of the vine that broke off here, so I'm going to fix that. I could always just sand it down and make it look like the vine broke there. That actually might, I could probably just do that. I think I'll do that. I will fix this little seam here. That's not too hard. Let's see what else. I think other than that, so let's put that to the side. Let's look at the wings real quick. Let's see, I think these had magnets. They do. Okay, so they have magnets, and they seem, that one seems pretty strong. Again, it's been, I was just looking at the video I uploaded, it was like back in January 3rd, so it's been 2 months since almost 2 months since I've looked at this again. Okay, so I think the magnets are just strong enough to hold the wings in place. They're not pulling out, so I'm happy with that. So those are good to go. And then her head is separate. And since this is a statue, I mean, it basically gets all painted the same color and weathered. So I can glue her head in, and I will go ahead and fix this little bit of a gap around the neckline here. Hopefully I can do that with epoxy. So let me do the easy stuff first. I'm gonna put the big part to the side. This thing is heavy, guys. Move the camera again. Okay, so this is a lot of the same stuff over and over again, just different pieces. So it may get repetitive, but you know, I like to show everything. So my videos are so freaking long. So for the head, we're gonna do the same thing we did with the arms, but I don't have to worry about really getting the wing to fit. I'm gonna grind off all the primer, and I'm just gonna put a nice dose of epoxy in there, and then hopefully I'll get some ooze out around the neck that I can use to fill in the gap. So let me grind that off. I'll come back. Okay, so I'm gonna do the head first, and I've got that sanded off down to resin. Same thing here. I also drilled a hole here for a pin, as well as in the neck. So I'll put a brass rod, and that'll just help keep its, you know, give it the epoxy something else to grip to. So same as before. Mix some epoxy. I'm going to clamp it down. I had some 5-minute, this would be good for 5-minute epoxy. I don't have any 5-minute epoxy. No. Alright, sorry about all the background noise. I'm not using my mic, I'm just using the mic on the phone. Alright, so we're going to mix this up. A lot of activity today because my son is finally having his birthday party. His birthday was 3 weeks ago. You hear all sorts of noise in the background, sorry. Alright, I'm going to put my mic on. Alright, hopefully that's better. I think you guys can hear me. Let me make sure this is... There we go. Okay. So again, epoxy. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to put this pin in it. Got plenty of surface area here. And this is not a structural piece, so it's like way overkill, but and just use it up. Okay, put that in there, and then I got a clamp over here. Get plenty of ooze out. This is an instance where I'm trying to record. I can't. It's hard for me to make sure I'm in view of the camera while recording it and still being able to do what I got to do. Okay, so that's what I wanted. I want all that ooze out. Perfect. Oops. Now let's go in here with some alcohol and start cleaning this up. And that epoxy should fill that gap up nicely. I shouldn't have any putty work on the neckline. Now, I did notice when I was getting this ready to epoxy that there's a nice gap between the hair and the back of the statue. So, that bugs me. So after this cures, like, I don't think that would be there in the statue. I think this would be all one piece of stone. So after this cures, I'll just go in there and I'll pack in some Aves epoxy to fix that gap. Now, it does look like this is kind of molded to it, but when I clamp this down flat, there's a big gap. So not really sure about that. So no big deal. Again, just another gap to fill. But yeah, it looks like maybe maybe this part was cleaned up and it was just cleaned up too much. So we'll let this cure, and then we'll fill that in with some Aves all the way around and just kind of sculpt it to it. But yeah, the epoxy did a good job of filling in the neckline perfectly. Okay, so I can't glue that to the body obviously until that's cured. So I'll put that to the side for now. Because once I do that, I'll pin it and I'll glue it to the torso here. And she'll be one piece, and then I'll be able to do the putty work on the vine and stuff. So, while that's doing, let me get some of the stuff out of the way. And we'll bring the base back up here and look at it. My camera again, so I can back out. I'll do the this thing's heavy. I'll do the foot next. I actually may do both feet, just so I'm happy with the fit. So let's get rid of this cube for now. I have some ideas about that maybe. Okay, so we want to get the feet to fit better. Not that they don't fit, but we want to fill up this gap. So again, if you've watched any of my videos, it's relatively simple. It's just take some Bondo and some sanding. So I'm going to take these out. I think this one's actually pretty acceptable, but since I'm here, I may just go ahead and tighten this one up a little bit too. But that's pretty obvious right there that there's a decent gap. So let's take this off. I got my sandpaper order from Amazon, yay! So I got my nice, good quality sandpaper. So we're just gonna go in here. We're gonna, you know, do I have any paint thinner on my bench? I don't. I'm gonna go get some lacquer thinner. I'm just gonna get the primer off so the Bondo has something to stick to. Bondo. I bought some glazing putty today, but it's very, very expensive, so I only use it when I'm not trying to re-sculpt something, but just kind of do some fillings. I'm just going to use some thinner to get the primer off. Put my mic back on. There we go. Okay, so Bondo will not stick to primer. It's in our bedroom, or it's in our bathroom. Okay. I don't need to rekey this part, just the space around the foot. Okay, and let's go ahead and do this one too while we're here. We'll just tighten it up a little bit. Make me feel better. Make me feel warm inside. Today's February the 23rd, I believe. Saturday the 23rd or 22nd. I don't know what date it is. Anyway, it's like I said, it's been like 4-6 weeks since I've actually come up here and put in real time on projects. I've done a little bit here and there with the chroming videos, and a little bit here and there on Chris's Cyclops. So I got my goal today was I did a little bit on the Bushy Silver Surfer. I'm waiting for the top coat on the Sosa Cyclops to dry so I can mask off the next part. Our little dog is barking at the birthday balloons. It's gonna get loud here in a second. We have guests arriving for my son's party. Okay. So now I got a little primer off. I'm just going to scuff it up a little bit. Hopefully I'm in frame. Yeah, okay. Same here. We're going to just scuff it up a little bit. Okay. Ooh, okay. Get my favorite modeling tool of all, petroleum jelly. So I'm just putting some petroleum jelly here on the feet, just like we did on the wings. This will prevent the Bondo from sticking to it.
Okay, so I'm just doing this off camera because it's easier. You don't need to see that. So I'm just doing this off camera. It's easier. So I bought those. I have those action cams. I just haven't used them in a while because there's like the shot on them is like too wide, and my phone's hard to use because it's too close. I have a DSLR I could use for filming video, but I think it'd be tough. I'm sorry if you can't hear me because of all the background noise, but it's gonna be loud for a while as people arrive. My son's birthday. So hopefully you can hear me between the vacuuming and all that stuff. Okay. So now I got both feet have petroleum jelly on them. I'm just gonna hit this to the side on the floor real quick. Get those out of the way. So there's that, and now we're gonna get out some Bondo. Now I'll mix this up. I won't put a whole lot of hardener in it, like I have been, just so I can have time to work. I'll put that to the side. I just got this piece of cardboard I was using earlier today for the Bushi Silver Surfer, so I'll just use the back side of that. I'm going to mix up more than I need. It's always better to have more than you need than run out in the middle of a step. Trust me. Then you're scrambling to mix more. Alright, so I got some of this red hardener. Just put that much out. And I've said this before, when you mix body filler like this, you want to fold it in and push down. It'll help reduce air bubbles. You can probably still get some, but this will just help reduce it. I got too much hardener in here. This is going to kick off before I'm ready. We'll see. You can tell right now it's too red. Once you start mixing, you don't want to stop and add more filler to it. You'll just end up. Okay. Okay, so the idea here is to basically fill this in just around the edge. You don't need to go down in the key. Kind of got to work fast because I put too much hardener in. Okay. It'll work quick. Okay. Let's get this in here before it. Okay, so put that in there. And I'm going to squish it down, just like that. So now I got all that ooze out. And I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to worry about trying to smooth it out, because with the petroleum jelly on the foot, it's not going to stick to the foot. And with the base and primer, it shouldn't stick to the primer. Hi. So I'm going to let this dry for 10-15 minutes. And then if it's like I've done these before, it'll be such a good fit, it'll be actually hard to get him out of the base. But now he won't have any gaps around his feet, which will make me happier, and hopefully make my client happier. Okay. All right, so I'm going to pause and we'll come back after that's dried. Okay, so this is dried for about 10 minutes or so. Let's see if we can get him out. Yeah, he's coming out. There we go. All right. So we got new places for his feet. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in, actually. And I'm going to see about just kind of cutting off the excess. I'm going to kind of cut some of this off before it dries all the way. I'll reduce my sanding by quite a bit, actually. It's like soft enough to cut, but it's not hard enough to sand yet, so. If I try to sand it now, it'll just clog up my sandpaper like crazy. Sand the rest of that down. This side wasn't as bad, so. I don't have my mic on, sorry. I didn't have my mic on, sorry. Hopefully you could hear me. That's what happens when you don't wear it every single time. You kind of forget. Okay, now I see something here where I'm going to have to go back and do a little more. There's a gap underneath his foot here I didn't notice before. Under his back heel on this foot. So I may do a little bit more on the back heel here. Okay, just clean this up around the edge as much as we can before it gets too hard. Yeah, so I may come back and put a little bit underneath this back heel here because there's a gap I didn't notice before. We'll see. Let's cut this side down a little bit. I just cut down to where the base is, and I know that I'm good. So you can see here that from here to here is the gap we filled. So it's actually sticking pretty, it's actually, I know it said it doesn't stick to primer, it's actually sticking pretty good to this primer for some reason. It shouldn't be, but it is. Actually, maybe to may have kicked off too far, but when it's still wet, you can use thinner to clean it up. Let's see if it's soft enough for me to do that here. A little bit. Let's clean it up a little bit. Yeah. So I was recording a part of the Bushi Silver Surfer work in progress today too, and one thing I was saying in the video is that my videos are long, usually for work in progresses, because I try to show the entire process of whatever I'm doing in real time. As much of it, if it's after a while, if it's the same thing over again, I'll just show like one example and I'll move on. But so some people say, yeah, the videos are too long, you know, edit it down. But I get more people saying they like the longer videos that doesn't cut out, you know, what's going on. When I'm watching how to do something, I rather have a long video and have everything explained to me really well. So that's kind of why I do it the way I do it. All right, I'm gonna go in here and sand this down a little bit. This is just some 180 sandpaper. I guess my son's outside naked. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna vacuum that up real quick and see how it looks. Oops, maybe. Alright, this side looks pretty good. Got a little bit that came down here, no big deal. I'm just gonna cut it out. All right. And put that back in. Oh. And hopefully you can see that. But now we have, there's no gap around that foot. You're going to have a little bit of a, you know, area, but there's like, it fits perfectly now. Okay, so I'm happy with this foot. Now let's take a look at this one over here. I think I could probably, I think I know what happened. I just don't think I got the heel down all the way before it started to cure. So I'm going to go ahead and do this side again one more time. Not the end of the world. I'll try to get some of this out of the... I just got something here in the cracks of the rock. Yeah, so that's kind of my fault there. Alright, so we'll fix that real quick. Yeah, I just didn't get him down all the way in the back here, unfortunately, so. And now he's keyed that way, so now we gotta kind of fill it in. It's not the end of the world, but something I could have avoided if I just made sure to push down all the way back here. So it's kind of get some clean up around it so I can put a little more filler and kind of redo this foot. Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna put a little filler. I still have the petroleum jelly on the foot, so I'm just gonna do the same thing over. So I'll come back after that. And I just dropped the legs. A little break from my son's birthday party and stuff last night, so I got these feet fitting the way I wanted. So since I kind of when I put the legs in, this foot was sitting really perfectly flat when I put them in, so I'm not sure if there was a gap back here. I just didn't see it earlier, but this part was sitting, the front of the foot was sitting very flat too, so it may just been there, I didn't see it. So basically I just built up some of the filler here, and I just kind of replicated the rock texture. So now there's no gap around either of the feet. So this took a little longer than anticipated, but no big deal. So now that's done. So now he fits in there perfectly. And the keys are a little messy in here. I'll clean them up a little bit, but that's not that big of a deal because you don't see it. But you can even see that there was some play in there because some of that filler squeezed down onto the side. So even though it feels like a really tight fit, there was a little bit of play, but overall the fit was pretty good. Just, you know, a little gap filling here and on the other foot. So I'm happy with that now. So let's put that to the side. The head on the statue has cured overnight, so that's good to go. I can take that off. Now the head is on the torso, and that's never coming off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue her to the rest of the body. So let me put this aside for now. So it's right here. Now this part's hollow casted, but it's done very well. So a lot of guys kind of freak out on hollow casting. And there's nothing wrong with hollow casting as long as the walls are poured thick enough. And if everything was poured solid, like I know when Thanos, the Sideshow Thanos was shipped, everyone was like, oh, it's hollow casted. And, you know, yeah. So if they made that thing solid, it would be like 150 pounds. It'd be crazy insane. The price would triple and the shipping would be triple. And so you have, you know, and in order to save materials and shipping and stuff, it's just doesn't make sense to solid cast everything. So most big stuff is hollow casted. You know, you got things like the Maddox Hulk, which is solid. It weighs 60 pounds. I mean, it's heavy. Okay, so I do have some holes drilled into this for some pins, and I think I put them away yesterday. I'll set some more. Since I'm out of my, since I'm out of 1/8 and 5/32 brass rods, what I'm doing is I'm just taking some, what size is this? 3/32? Sorry, I'm trying to get the size. I want to say it's 3/32. Yeah. So 3/32 brass rod. I don't have my mic plugged in. I guess I could put that in, but it's relatively quiet here now. So I'm just going to, well, no, I still have kids here. Let me get this plugged in. It's not so noisy in the background. So I'm just going to take this 3/32. I'm going to do what I always do. I'm going to rough it up a little bit. So I'm just going to rough it up a little bit. And I'm actually going to just make 2 of these. I'm just going to double it up. I'm going to do this. And this will just give me a little more stability. Just like that. So if you run out of thick brass rods, sometimes I just double up. And I didn't get a chance to go to the hobby store yesterday to get more. Let's see if the hole is deep enough in the torso. Let's see. I thought it was deep enough. So just do a dry fit. All right, so it fits really well. I use brass because it's got some flexibility. I do have steel rods, but those are really hard to make sure that everything's lined up perfectly. So now, as again, same thing as before. I'm going to basically just see, I have it thinner out here still. I'm just going to take off the primer on the keys, so the epoxy has bare resin to stick to. So hopefully I get all basically the fitting done on this piece today, and then get it ready for primer. And then after primer, I'll see if I need any additional work anywhere. So I did find some close-up photos or video of the production pieces, and I'll address that here in a second on the other part of the base that's going to need actually the most work as far as gap filling goes. And again, in here we're just going to take the primer off. As you know, I'm in a lot of these secret groups, and someone had posted a video the other day of one of their pieces being worked on in the factory where they're cleaning up the castings, and sometimes they go overboard with the cleanup, and it's just as a kit builder painter, you know, as I notice it, but they're like just going over it with a grinder, really pretty rough. So it's really easy to, if I don't do that personally, I don't use a Dremel tool. I do it all by hand because it's really easy to carve a flat spot out on a piece. So it's way more time consuming to do it by hand, but you have far less chance of grinding a flat spot or losing detail. So I'm gonna get another epoxy cup. I need to get some more of these. I buy these in bulk off of Amazon, because at the hobby store you get, for $4 it's 50, and I go through them really quick. So I get, these are actually the more expensive ones. I'm out of the cheap ones. Cheap ones on Amazon I can get like 200 for, I don't know, $10. Okay, I'll mix up a decent amount here. I need to get some 5-minute epoxy, because for stuff like this where I don't need a lot of working time, where I know it fits really well, I can just clamp it. 5-minute epoxy is just more efficient use of time. Actually, I'm going to mix up a little more because I want to get in that key. Okay. So again, a lot of repetition, guys. Sorry about all the repetitive steps, but this is what it takes. This is way more epoxy than I need, as usual. But again, I'd rather have too much than run out in the middle of a process. I think the clamp I have out is big enough to clamp this to go. Maybe not with the head on there. I have to make sure I got enough. I'll have to download my card suit. I'm almost out of space on it. I've got a bunch of clips. I got a bunch of videos I got to put together. I got a bunch of clips I downloaded from this and the Bushi Silver Surfer. I've got the first work in progress of the Bushi Silver Surfer done. I'll put those clips together and try to get those uploaded tonight. I'll get this uploaded tonight. I think I'll have all the putty work done. So I like to coat the pins in a good dose of epoxy. And we're going to pour this in. I need to get some epoxy brushes too. I need to find those in bulk, because they're, for what they are, they're expensive at the hobby store, because they're a one-time use only thing. So when I'm doing pieces like this, I try to make sure I get epoxy all the way to the edges, because even if I just epoxy the key here, the thing about epoxy that's better than using like super glue or CA, cyanoacrylate, I said that completely wrong. CA glue is that it's brittle. So it's not good for this type of thing, because if it gets jarred or bumped, it'll break. No matter how much you use, it's just brittle. So epoxy's got some give to it. So if I just epoxy this key and not around the edges, there's a chance that there still could be some play in this joint. Not that it'll ever come apart, but it may have just a little bit of flexibility in there that it could move a little bit, and you want that. You don't want it to be a stiff joint. You want to have that flexibility in there so it can handle being jarred or moved around. I'm going to cut those pins. Alright, we're going to have a decent amount of ooze out, which is fine. Let's see, is this clamp big enough? I don't think it is. Nope. I do have some bigger clamps. We're going to go give her a good clamp. And then once I do that, I'll clean up the excess epoxy. So I'm just going to come off camera here so I can do this. Okay. So I got her clamped. Now these clamps that I have, this one in particular is from Harbor Freight. They're not the best clamps, they're cheap. So it's not like a DeWalt clamp or something. It won't clamp nearly as hard as like a DeWalt or a name brand clamp, but for this kind of thing, it works perfectly. So sometimes you get away with the cheap tool, sometimes you're just better off spending the money on a good tool. If you ever worked with really, really cheap tools, you know that's the case sometimes. Again, it depends on how much you use the tool, you know. A lot of it comes down to how much do you think your time is worth. Because good tools, in most cases, can save you time. Now I do have some spots here where I got to be able to plug in some of these little leaves that just got filled in with epoxy. Like right here's there's a key for one. Got to make sure I clean that out. I should have a toothpick out is what I should to get in there. Do I have toothpicks? I don't. But I have some of these hobby Q-tips, or not toothpick, a hobby Q-tip. These little guys are good for getting into small spots like that. Here's another key I got to clean out. Okay. And we'll clean up all this ooze out. Starting to set up already. That's fine. As long as it doesn't cure up 100%, you can still clean it up. About that, my card filled up and I didn't realize it, so I had to go download all the clips I had. So I was saying, so I got that part, she's clamped over there, she's drying again, the torso to the body, and I cleaned up all the epoxy. 1 second, sorry, just plugging things in here. My battery doesn't die. Okay, so I was looking at some of the reviews and stuff online about this piece, and from what I can see, the production piece is, this piece fits better. Like it fits down into the base better. There's not kind of like some of the gap issues I have going on here. So not sure what exactly is preventing this from going down all the way. It's kind of hard to tell. It almost feels like this key right here is too tall. If that's the case, that is a crap load of grinding. I think this base is hollow. If that's the case, what I'll probably do is try to cut out this part. Let me see. Because the amount of grinding it would take to get that key down would be insane. Yeah, okay. So this is hollow. So I'm going to do because I'm going to cut this bottom out. I'm going to start by drilling a bunch of holes around it. And you can see here that the factory did grind this down quite a bit. So like if I had a huge belt sander, which I don't have, I would just throw it on the belt sander and try to take care of it that way, but I don't have that. Sometimes you gotta perform surgery. I'm doing all these holes because it'll just create less dust. Because I'll go in there with a cutting wheel and cut the rest out. It'll just create less dust doing it this way first. Now we can do this. Let's see. Okay, let's vacuum that out. There's a thick part right there. Had the drill going the wrong way. It's like, why is that not going in? I had it turning the wrong direction. Oh my gosh. It's a wonder I get anything done. I wonder if I could just knock it out. Let's try that. Let's give it a go. I don't know. I don't think so. It's poured pretty thick, so I don't think that's going to happen. I could possibly do damage. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Dremel tool with a cutting wheel. I'm going to just go and cut this bottom out. I'll be back. Alrighty, so I got the bottom out. Let's see how this fits. Hopefully that was worth it. Let's find out real quick. Yes, so it has gone down significantly, probably a good 1/8 of an inch. So this is similar to what I saw in the production pieces as far as any gaps go. I will have a little bit of work to do, but not nearly as much. So now, let's see. I could go in here and try to find all the high points where it's hitting, because it is still hitting in some spots. It's hitting right here a little bit, so let me follow that down a little bit, see if we can get it to come down some more. All of this is to reduce the amount of putty work I got to do. Let's see. You can see it. It's hitting right here because the primer is missing off of this point. Okay, so I brought that down a little bit. So this in here I think looks pretty good. What's really noticeable is like right here where the vines are supposed to key in to the base. So it looks like it needs to go down some more still. Let's see if I can find other spots where it's hitting. Actually, this side needs to come down quite a bit. Let's see. Okay, it's hitting right up in here. I can see that. Okay, so that little bit helped. I just ground that vine down just a little bit, and that made a big difference right there. Okay. Where else is it hitting? Hitting right here a little bit. So I'm gonna go around and find all the spots where it hits and see if we can get to sit down some more. Okay, I think this is gonna get as good as it's gonna get. The only spot that's really bugging me is right here, and I just think that this is too high, or it's hitting down here is where it's hitting. You can see the factory ground that edge down a little bit to try to get this corner down. I may try that on this real quick. 1 second. Okay, well I think this is the best as I'm going to get it. I went ahead and I grounded the edges down on this, and it's hitting in too many areas. So I'm going to just leave it as it is for now. I'm going to glue it down, and I'm going to go in here with Aves and just fill in all the areas around this. I think this is my best bet instead of just keep grinding on this thing. So let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and grind this off. So it's just, or let's hit it with some thinner again. So it's bare resin. Somewhere, here we go. So taking this bottom off helped a little bit. It really helped in the front, is where I think it was sitting on the bottom of that key. All right, so same as before. Mix up a good dose of epoxy. And I tried clamping it down. I just don't have I don't have clamps that are big enough to kind of I can get a clamp on the back side, but I don't have a clamp with the jaws that are deep enough to get to the front. So I just didn't worry about it. And mix up a good dose of this. The first video is just a lot of the same steps over and over again. This will kick off pretty quick because I have a good amount of this mixed up. If this is enough, we have to mix up some more. Let's mix up a little bit more real quick. Hopefully that won't kick off too fast. If I can get it out of the cup fast enough where it's not building up heat. Come on. Should always keep these pointing down when I'm not using them so they're ready to go. Nice big bead around this. All right, let's throw it on there. If we get to use that, we'll clean it up. There, getting a little bit used out, which is fine because that means I can use that to help fill in the gaps. He needs to start ready. He needs to start getting ready for soccer practice. So, oh, and go get ready for practice, buddy. Alina, you can continue picking up, please. All right. It's indoor. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll get this set up. And then we'll go in with the Aves and start filling in all these areas. All right, let's see. So I think once I get this done, so while this is drying, I can do the Aves on the Angel. So we're really going to let that set up for 30-40 minutes or so. So this epoxy's had enough time to set up decently. We're going to put this to the side while this dries. All right. So this fine lady, get out some Aves. And I use gloves when I do it because this stuff is sticky, sticky, sticky. this aside. Mix up some Aves. Yep, that's Mom. I'm not sure. Okay. Part B. You want to mix these equal amounts, pretty close. That's probably more than I need, but again, I always rather have a little bit more than I need. And then run out in the middle of the process. And this isn't so time sensitive. Let's see, I always forget what the working time on Aves is. Excuse me. You want to mix it up really well. Let it sit for 5 minutes. And then you have ready to use. Working time is 1 to 3 hours. Shape as desired. Smooth or texture with wet finger. Brush, Q-tip, or sculpting tool. Self hardens. And then takes 24 hours to fully cure. So I'm going to mix this up and let it sit, and then we'll come back and put it on. All right, so I've mixed this up. It's sat for a little bit, and we're going to start packing this in. And what I'll probably do is, even though that base hasn't dried all the way, I'll probably start adding it around the edge there. So I'm just going to start and roll some out. And get a little bit of this safety solve in the cup. I used to use water, but this actually works a lot better for Aves. And we're just going to fill this in. Doesn't have to be pretty at first. I just want to fill in the void. This does two things. This will fill in the gap, and it'll also provide support for the hair, so it won't, if it gets bumped, it won't break. Oh, Owen, worry about getting ready for soccer. That's the only thing you got to do right now. Keep looking. You've got to go. Stop talking. Keep looking. Always looking for soccer stuff, constantly. Never know where it is. Yeah, don't have to worry about being real pretty right now. I just want to kind of get it in there, and then I'll worry about kind of smoothing it out to create a smooth transition between the putty and the sculpt. Just pushing it in to fill in the void behind the hair so it's got support. Alright, so that's filled in. Now I'm going to go worry about smoothing this out a little bit. You can't see it under here, but I'm just smoothing it out underneath the hair. Blending it in, using this little nylon sculpting tool, or rubber sculpting tool. These do a good job because they don't stick to the putty, especially with the safety solve, and they just give you a nice feathered edge. And then I'd like to go in here with a Q-tip, also smooth it out a little bit. So this won't need any sanding or anything when I'm done. I'll just be able to prime right over this by the time I'm done. It should blend pretty smoothly. Alright, so that looks like that's taken care of pretty well. Okay, so that's done. Okay, let's put her to the side again. And even though I just epoxied this a second ago, a few minutes ago, we're gonna, since I have this azo mixed up, I don't want to waste it. So this shouldn't move now. This epoxy's, it's not cured, but it's set up enough where this shouldn't move. So same thing, we're going to come in here and we're going to start kind of packing it in these voids. Let's push it in until nothing else will go in there. Let's see, line frame. I think so, yeah. So I'm just using this metal sculpting tool to pack it in there. I want to completely fill the void again, just to avoid any chance of this wanting to flex or anything. I've got enough epoxy in there that it shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so basically it's the same thing as with the angel head. I'm just going to go in and pack this in and smooth it out. So this could take me an hour or so just to do that. So I'm not going to record it all, but I think you get the idea here. think you get the idea of this. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and look at it. All right, well, that took about an hour or so, but I went through and added A's. I didn't have to do anything here because that's where I had all that epoxy kind of ooze out and clean that up. So that filled in the gap nicely. I went through with the A's and the solve set, and I just filled in the gaps, and then where the vines kind of came down, I sculpted the vines in to kind of meld into the base here. So I think this is going to work really, really nicely. So now there's no gap at all around this whatsoever. So let's see, what else do I need to do on this? The base. I think the base, I'm going to clean up the keys inside the feet a little bit, even though I really don't need to, but just so it's a cleaner look. I'm going to clean those up a little bit. Now I can put her up there. So if there was a way, there really isn't, if there was a way to ship this piece with her on the base, I would actually glue her down and fill in this gap, but there's no way to do that. I think it just look cleaner. I like, like to try to fill up gaps as much as possible. Let's see, the hair looks good. I'll glue that little chip out piece here in a second with some thick CA, and I'll be able to sand that down to fill it in. So let's throw Morbius back up there. So now I think the next decision I need to make is I need to look at his clothes again, because again, I'm not familiar with these characters, guys. So I'm wondering if I should kind of wonder if I should. Hold on, I'm trying to make sure this doesn't fall. Okay, so I got the arms glued on yesterday. The only thing that's really left on him is I got to resculpt that finger. So that fits on there nicely. The wings come in and out easily, so I'll be able to paint those separately without having to do any masking. And it looks like they fit well. So, happy with those. Now the trick when I glue these in will be to make sure I don't get any epoxy ooze out or glue ooze out, because I don't want it to try to fix paint that may not stay in there. Let's see, where's the other wing? Here's the other wing. This one was falling out yesterday just because it's full of petroleum jelly, as they both are. So those fit well. I'm happy with that. Gaps in the feet look good. No gap there. Oh, I do need to do Aves around up here. So I'll do that next. I'll pack Aves in around the joints there. I can do that today. And I won't do that on camera because it's the same concept as doing it around the base here. So it's the same thing. I can actually use the Aves I still have mixed up here. It's starting to, I don't know, this seems to set up pretty quick for me. I don't know if it does for other guys, but it says you have 3 hours to work with it, but as it cures, your workability changes as far as what you can do with it. I need to tighten up my light here, sorry. I got my camera mounted to one of my lights. So I'm going to do that next. I'm going to put the Aves in around here. Sorry. Awesome camera work as usual. I can do that. And then I think as far as Morbius go, other than the finger, that's it. I was deciding whether I should go and glue the torso on now, but I think we're going to wait because that way I can paint the legs separate and the upper body is easier to handle. I don't have to do anything with the wings on the Angel. They fit very well. The magnets are nice and they're just the right strength. They're not too strong. They're not too weak. Whoops. Sorry. It's kind of like watching Blair Witch Project with my camera work. Don't get sick. Sorry, guys. Okay, so those fit good. Let's see what else I got. That's a really cool piece. The more I look at it, the more I like it. Let's see. Has this got a magnet in it? I think it does. Nope, that doesn't have a magnet, so I'm going to pin that. It'll be removable, so I'll just add a pin to it, or I'll add a magnet to it. I can show that real quick. I think make sure I got some of the right size. I need to make an order of magnets online. I do have some that will work. So I'll do that real quick. I'll show you how to do a magnet. Okay, those heads fit fine. Let's see. Just kind of going through the stuff I got to do before I can start even thinking about priming. Let's see, on the base here, we got two other elements here. We got this hand, this broken hand that comes in like, sorry about the vacuuming. And I think I'm going to go ahead and, no, I need to paint that separately because this is going to be the same color as the statue. So I'll paint that separately. And then when I glue it down, I'll just put a little filler right there on the vines and blend that in. It actually blends in really well right here, but I want to fill in that little gap there. And same with this. This gets painted separately. I kind of wish they would have done this. I don't know why they molded this piece separately from this hand, which is much more difficult, and they didn't do it on this piece. So who knows? That fits in there nicely. And then this goes down, and the same thing. I'll paint the hand the same color as the statue. I'll glue it to the base, and then when I put this vine in, I'll just fill in. There's a little, I'm not sure if you can see, there's a little gap on this side and a little bit of a gap right here. So I'll make those meet up and fill that in. So I can't do that till later. So I think the next thing I gotta do is put a magnet in the angel's arm and the A's on the Morbius arms. Take these out. I'm not going to show you the A's on Morbius arms. It's the same thing as I just did on the base, so no need to show you that process again. Let's get this all taken off. Let me show you how to do a magnet real quick, and hopefully not put it in the wrong way. So let me clear off my bench again, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I want to show you real quick. I went ahead, since I had all that A's mixed up, I went ahead and did the arms and got those seamed in. At the same time, I went in and sculpted like the veins and stuff that go around. Same thing with the seam line and this uniform here. That's a tricky part. I may have to sand these a little bit just to smooth it out some. I'll find that after I prime it, but just wanted to put those details back in. So I got the A's pretty much sculpted to the correct shape. So that's got to set up 24 hours, and then we'll look at that. And then I'm going to show you how to do a magnet. So I'll come back and show you that here in a second. All right, magnet. So I need the arm and the body. So it's really interesting because in the casting it looks like they have a spot for a magnet. They just didn't put one in. Don't need a big one here because this doesn't weigh very heavy. These are 1/4 inch in diameter. I got one that's a little longer than the other, so I'll use that one. And the arm here. So I gotta get a drill bit. Actually, what I like to do first is to get a smaller drill bit. Doesn't matter the size, just something small. And I like to mark, just kind of get my holes lined up as best as I could. So I just put a little shallow hole there. And I get some blue tack. And just knead it up a little bit so it's a little warm. And I put it into the other area where the other magnet's going to go. Hopefully it sticks. I'm going to take my gloves off because it wants to stick to the blue. It wants to stick to the blue tack. Come on, get off. Ah. Stick that in there. Come on, stick. Ah. I'm having a hard time getting it to stay in there. There we go. And then hopefully it doesn't come out. Then we just put the part you want to join and just give it a little push. Helps if the blue tack is actually centered. I wanted to stick to everything but where I wanted to stick, of course. Now, the arm in, give it a little push, and then you can see, I think, you can see a little spot there where it lines up, okay? So we take our drill, spot, and oh, there's a magnet in there. There's a magnet in the statue, but there's no magnet in the arm. Okay, easy. So I just got to find out which side I got to put in there. Piece of cake. So I don't have to worry about lining it up. They just didn't put a magnet in the arm. Okay. Sweet. So I work this cut in half. Now I just got to worry about making sure I put the magnet in the right way. So let's do that. Okay, so the correct way, I'm just going to put a dot on it so I know that's the side that I need to see. Okay. Put a mark on it. Drill a hole in the arm here. That. And then I'm going to take my magnet. And take some, where do I have it? There's some extra thick CA. I'm just going to kind of fill the hole first, and then I'm going to figure this out. My hole is clogged up. There we go. Nope. The blue bottle is clogged. Usually just take like a 1/16 drill bit. There we go. I have a lot coming out because I put enough in there to ooze out. I'm going to recess it just a little bit. And then I'm going to zip kick it. So then we'll let that dry. I'm going to sand it smooth a little bit, and then we should be good to go. But I'm not going to put it back in there until I know this glue's dry because I don't want it to get sucked out. So after that, let's see, I can put that little chip out while I'm waiting. Here. Again, I'm just going to use some of this extra thick CA. I like this because I can kind of use it to kind of fill in too. Put a little extra. And I can put this piece on. Now I have her on here. You have to do a little bit of putty work, nothing bigger, nothing major. So I'll fill that in and sand it down smooth. And then that will be done. Let's see. All right, so now I got that magnet in there. It's just strong enough. Perfect. Sand this down just a little bit so it's a little neater. Normally for magnets, I'd go ahead and I would like do my talcum powder trick, but since this is a very light piece and it's not a load-bearing piece, I'm not worried about this magnet being pulled out later. It's not having a lot of force exerted on it when it's on the statue. So normally I would put the magnet down a little bit lower, I'd mix up some super glue and talc powder, and then fill it in, and then sand it smooth, and that would ensure that the magnet never comes out. But I'm going to sand this down a little bit because I had a little bit of extra, I recessed it a little bit and I put a little extra glue in there so I could sand it down, and hopefully it'll just be a nicer finish on that piece. Not that you'll see it, but perfect. Okay. So I think the only thing I have left to do really before I start washing this thing and throwing some primer on it is resculpting the finger. And I'll probably do that off camera just because I'm not a sculptor and it'll probably take me several tries to do it. So, but I think I may call this work in progress 1 done as far as prep. I got all the gaps filled that I want to get filled. Everything's fitting really good. Yeah, I'm just gonna call this work in progress 1 done. After I get the finger resculpted, I'll work on that today. I'll wait 24 hours to let the aves dry. I'll give everything a really good bath with some soap and water, and then we'll be ready for priming. Even though these come primed from the factory, I always give them a really good bath, no matter, even if I don't do any work on them. If I get a kit that's, let's say, ready to paint, which they never are, I always get it from the factory, give it a really good bath in soap and water, and I would throw a coat of primer on it anyway. And just so I know that it's in a state that's ready for paint. I never know what's been done to it as far as, you know, who's touched it or what dirt's on it from the factory. So it's always a safe practice to do that. So yeah, so pretty much, except for resculpting the finger, the prep's done on this piece. So 2 full days to do that, about 20 hours to work before we even talk about throwing primer on it. So there you go. I can't think of anything else I gotta really do. Pretty happy with how everything's fitting. So there you go. Work in progress number 1 on the Morbius is done. Stay tuned, where we'll be throwing some primer on it. Thanks for watching. Bye.